So we talked about secant, secants, tangents, tangents. And now we're going to be talking about secant and a tangent. So here we have a secant, goes through the circle, and a tangent that touches the circle. So here's the pattern that we're going to use. The total secant, which in this case is AC, times the outer part of our secant, which is BC, is going to be equal to the tangent part, in this case CD. And it's going to be equal to that squared. Alright, so here we have a problem. Let's go ahead and highlight some stuff. If you haven't been highlighting, do so now. Because our total secant right here is x. Our outer part of our secant of our circle is 25. And the part that touches, I know it's kind of like, oh, it continues on, but we're only going to pay attention to that part, is about 100. So right now, whenever I have a number times a letter, essentially that's just the number in a letter. So we're just writing them right next to each other. Equals, what's 100 times 100? That's about 10,000. What's the opposite of multiplying by 25? Dividing. So we're going to divide both sides by 25, and x equals, go ahead and calculate that out. Pause and do that now. About 400. So that means the nest and the lookout station is about 400 yards. 400 yards away. Number 10. Again, total secant. Go ahead and work that out. What is 6 plus 4? 10. The outer part of our secant, in this case, what number? 4. And our tangent, in this case, the letter x. Go ahead and work this out. What is 10 times 4? 40. So I'm left with x squared, or x to the power of 2, however you want to say it. Like, how do I solve this out? I know this is not algebra class, but let's go ahead and square root both sides. Kind of looks like a radical. And I'm left with x equals, in your calculator, go ahead and square root 40. And that would be about 6.32. All right. And we're here at checkpoint. Find the value of x and Lj. So again, I'm going to use one of these theorems. Essentially, I'm going to be using either secant, tangent, tangent, or in this case, secant, tangent. Notice all of them kind of have the similar format, except for that last one where it was something times something equals something squared. As I'm looking at this, I have secants. Yay. So that means I'm going to be multiplying that part, which is x, times this part, which is 10, equals the product of the other secant, in this case 6, times 7. So let's go ahead and work that out. Pause and see if you can work this out. Unpause. 6 times 7 is 42. 10 times x is just 10x. What's the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. So let's divide both sides by 10, and x equals 4.2. So we found the value of x. Now we got to figure out Lj. In this case, Lj is x plus 10. Hey, we know what x is now. It's 4.2. So what would 4.2 plus 10 be? 14.2. All right, one more, number 2 as your checkpoint, and then we're going to go on to homework. So it says here, again, I'm going to use one of these two, secant, tangent, tangent, or secant, tangent. This one's going to be, oh, and it tells us. That's why I like that. Oh, secant segment. Okay, cool. So we're going to use our total times our outside, total times our outside. So in this case, total is 5 and x, or I'm going to let you fill that in. Here's 5, and then your total here, and the outside part there. Go ahead and fill in what you can. And unpause, that should have been x plus 5, 5, 12 and 6. All right, let's work this out. Remember, a number times a quantity is just that number times that quantity. 12 times 6, 72. Let's go ahead and distribute 5 times x and 5 times 5. Go ahead and work out what that might be. And unpause, that would be 5x plus 25. What's the opposite of adding 25? Subtracting. So we'll subtract 25 from both sides. And that would be 5x equals, what's 72 take away 25? 27. What's the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. So that would be x equals 5.4. All right, guys. So we found out what x is. Now we got to figure out, before we go on to our homework, since we figured out x is 5.4, I know that essentially if I add those together, that would be 10.4 for AC. And we already know that 6 plus 6, AE is 12. So, all right, make sure you're doing your homework. If you have questions, I did provide a little bit of support here on the screen, so you know which one do I use. Because once I know which one to use, so you can look and see which of these pictures matches the problem you have here. Same thing here. Same thing there. See which one matches so you know which one to use. All right, and feel free to use, if you need to come in and get support, setting up equations, solving them out, please come into the center and do so. We have tutors, we have teachers. We want to help you through this. We'll see you here on the next video.